I have maintained a tight, suspense-driven narrative, no headings, no filler, no wasted dialogue. And every sentence advances either plot or character. The moment Davis stepped onto the plane, he felt something electric in the air. Not the usual static crackling through recycled cabin atmosphere, but a tension that clung to the back of his neck like a cold hand. He took his seat on the aisle, stretched out his back after a long walk through the terminal, and tried to settle into the faint hum of engines warming beneath them. He'd barely buckled his seatbelt when the first sharp, plasticky click broke through the noise. A call button, bright yellow, pressed with unnecessary force. Davis looked up, following the source of the sound. The woman across the aisle, blonde hair cut neatly to her shoulders, red blouse crisp beneath a black leather jacket, red pants that practically screamed for attention, had her arm raised again. Her expression hovered somewhere between irritation and theatrical despair, as though merely existing in this airplane seat was an affront to her dignity. Click. The call light blinked again. Passengers twisted in their seats to look. Some whispered. Others rolled their eyes. The woman wasn't oblivious. She relished the attention, her lips tightening with self-righteous purpose. The flight attendant approaching down the aisle, Mia, short dark hair, calm posture, a practiced soft smile, slowed noticeably as she saw the illuminated button glowing above the woman's head. Davis didn't know Mia, but he recognized the look in her eyes instantly. The brittle patience of someone bracing for impact. "Ma'am," Mia began gently, "how can I help you today?" The woman sighed dramatically, as though Mia had taken years to respond instead of seconds. "Finally, I've been waiting." Davis doubted that. He had counted. 2 seconds. "My name is Linda," the woman said forcefully. "I expect at least some basic competence. The seat doesn't feel right. There's something wrong with the air. And this cabin is far too loud. I specifically requested a peaceful environment." Mia blinked, unfazed but clearly working hard to stay collected. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I can help adjust your seat once we're in the air, but everything is working normally right now." Linda clicked her tongue. "Working normally? Does this look normal to you?" She waved at the overhead panel like it had personally insulted her. "This is unacceptable. I need special attention. Immediately." Davis looked away, trying to mind his business. But Linda's voice kept slicing through the air like a serrated knife. Click. She hit the call button again before Mia could even step back. A tension coil tightened in the cabin. Passengers exchanged glances, subtle but unified. Everyone sensed trouble brewing. The plane hadn't even left the gate, and the atmosphere already felt like a pressurized chamber about to blow. Mia held her composure with admirable steadiness. "Ma'am, I'm right here. Pressing the call button again isn't necessary." Linda leaned forward, her eyes narrowing with unmistakable challenge. "Are you telling me how to call for service?" Davis exhaled slowly. He could see Mia swallow her frustration, could see her regroup mentally before offering a careful, measured reply. "Not at all. I'm just trying to help." Linda scoffed. "Then help faster." She wasn't yelling, but her tone carried far enough to infect the entire row with discomfort. A man in front of her shifted uneasily. A woman diagonally behind Davis muttered something sharp under her breath. The tension was becoming physical, settling over the cabin like fog. Mia nodded gently, stepping away. She didn't get 3 steps before Linda pressed the button again. Click. The yellow light pulsed, mocking. Davis felt something pinch inside his chest. Sympathy for Mia, yes, but also a creeping suspicion that Linda was only warming up. He'd seen this type of performance before, entitlement sharpened into a blade, eager to carve space, attention, and power wherever possible. When Mia returned yet again, Linda didn't waste time. "This is harassment," she hissed. Mia seemed genuinely taken aback. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm not sure what. You're deliberately ignoring me. I know when someone is neglecting a paying customer. You think I don't see you chatting with other passengers? Tending to them while I sit here suffering." Davis couldn't hold his tongue. "She's been here every time you press the button." Linda snapped her head toward him so fast that her hair whipped across her cheek. "Excuse me, aisle boy, I didn't ask for your commentary." The nickname was bizarre, but her venom made Davis sit straighter. "I'm just saying she's doing her job. And I'll decide whether she is," Linda shot back. She jabbed a finger upward. "And I will press this button whenever I feel like it. Understood?" The words weren't directed at Davis, but at Mia, and they hung in the air like a threat. Davis saw the faint tremor in Mia's exhale. She nodded stiffly and stepped away, swallowing whatever she wanted to say. Another passenger murmured, "Unbelievable," loud enough for half the cabin to hear. But Linda either didn't notice or didn't care. Davis tried to return to his book, but the atmosphere refused to settle. He felt eyes drifting toward him, as if others saw he was now entangled in the conflict and wondered whether he would escalate things or let them go. He didn't know the answer yet himself. Mia passed by quietly, whispering, "I'm so sorry you're sitting near her. Please try to ignore her. We'll handle it." Davis nodded, though he doubted ignoring Linda was even possible. Her energy radiated outward in jagged waves, impossible to evade. Moments later, the familiar chime sounded again. Click, click, click. 3 rapid presses, then a 4th, then a 5th. Linda was pushing the button repeatedly now, each press escalating her fury. The light above her flickered with mechanical resignation. Passengers groaned. Someone muttered, "Are you kidding me?" Another whispered, "Captain's going to hear about this." Linda looked around triumphantly, as though she were conducting an orchestra of irritation. She lifted her chin, savoring her perceived authority. "I want your supervisor," she announced loudly. "Now. And I want documentation. I feel very unsafe with the level of incompetence on this flight." Her words hit the cabin with force. Davis felt a shift. This wasn't just disruption anymore. It was accusation, escalation, a fuse catching fire. He glanced at Mia, who had frozen near the galley, her expression a careful blend of professionalism and exhaustion. She looked toward the cockpit, then toward Davis, then back to Linda. Something inside Davis tightened, not fear exactly, but a recognition that whatever happened next would pull him deeper into this situation. He could walk away mentally, try to retreat into silence, pretend none of this involved him. But Linda's earlier accusation, that he was harassing her simply for existing within her line of sight, told him that wasn't an option. She wasn't done with him, and this wasn't over. The engines shifted to a deeper rumble as the plane prepared for pushback. The cabin lights dimmed slightly. A flight attendant made the pre-flight safety announcement, but most passengers barely listened. Their eyes drifted repeatedly toward Linda. And then Linda pressed the button again. A single click this time, but it was enough. A deliberate signal. A declaration. Davis inhaled sharply, heart tapping against his ribs. Turbulence often announced itself with a soft shudder, but this one hit with a sharp jolt that rattled trays, overhead bins, and nerves alike. The plane dipped just enough to make passengers grip their armrests. The captain's voice chimed through overhead speakers, calm but firm, instructing everyone to fasten their seatbelts and remain seated. Flight attendants hurried to secure themselves, except Mia, who stood frozen near Linda's row, caught in that impossible space between duty and danger. Linda, however, acted as though the aircraft were gliding on a serene cloud. She didn't reach for her seatbelt. She didn't look concerned. Instead, she pressed the call button again, her finger stabbing upward like she was detonating something. The glowing light flickered yet again, and the repetitive chime sounded through the cabin. Passengers groaned in unison. Davis heard a whispered, "Does she have a death wish?" from someone behind him. Another muttered, "Sit down, lady, before we all end up sideways." The cabin's energy vibrated with irritation, fear, and rising collective anger. Mia stepped closer, despite being told to sit during turbulence. Her voice shook slightly. "Ma'am, I need you to buckle your seatbelt immediately." Linda tilted her head, her smile sharpened at the edges. "And I need you to stop harassing me. See how that works? We all have needs." Her refusal put Mia in a dangerous position, not just physically, but professionally. Davis saw her struggling to maintain the thin thread of authority she had left. He felt that same pinch in his chest, a quiet promise to himself that he wouldn't stay silent if things escalated further. The plane jerked again. Linda wobbled but caught herself on the seat in front of her, glaring at it as though gravity personally offended her. "This pilot is incompetent," she declared loudly. "I'll be reporting him too." Davis watched a man 2 rows up start recording, angling his phone discreetly between the seats. Linda was too consumed with her own theatrics to notice. Davis recognized the usefulness of that footage instantly. Documenting her behavior could shift everything. He made a mental note, glanced at the recording passenger, and exchanged the smallest nod, a silent agreement. Linda resumed her tirade, fully aware she had an audience now. "Unbelievable. Do you all see how I'm being treated? Ignored, disrespected, put in danger. This airline should be ashamed of itself." A woman across from Davis whispered, "You're the danger," under her breath. Linda whipped around, heard it, and narrowed her eyes. But turbulence cut her next insult short as the plane rattled with another shake. The captain's voice returned, firmer this time. "Flight attendants, take your seats. Now." Mia hesitated for only a fraction of a second before obeying, retreating toward the jump seat near the galley. Linda scoffed triumphantly, as if she had chased Mia away by sheer force of entitlement. She tapped the call button again, even though no one could respond during turbulence. Click, click, click. The sound clawed at Davis's nerves. Each press seemed designed not to ask for help, but to assert dominance, a reminder that she believed herself above rules, safety, and basic human decency. When the turbulence finally eased, passengers exhaled in collective relief. But the moment the plane stabilized, Mia returned. Her professionalism was cracked but not broken. Her steps were controlled. Her voice steady. "Ma'am, again, please fasten your seatbelt. We can't continue to take off until everyone complies." Linda rolled her eyes with theatrical exaggeration. "There. Happy." She clicked the buckle together with an unnecessary snap, but her tone made it clear this was not compliance. It was strategic surrender. A small victory, Davis thought, but temporary. As Mia moved on, Linda leaned into the aisle and hissed loudly enough for half the cabin to hear, "I will not tolerate being treated like cattle. I know my rights." Davis turned his head just enough for his voice to reach her, but not loud enough to draw more eyes. "Your rights don't include endangering everyone on board." Her gaze snapped back to him, icy and sharp. "You again. Do you ever mind your own business?" "When your business becomes the entire plane's problem, no," Davis replied. He kept his voice low and even. Calm was his weapon. Her chaos was hers. Linda opened her mouth, ready to launch another verbal missile, but something in his expression stopped her. Not fear. Davis didn't look afraid. Not anger. He looked controlled, annoyingly so. She didn't know what to do with a man who wasn't reactive. She closed her mouth with a tight, irritated click. Moments later, turbulence cleared completely, and the flight attendants resumed service. A thin veneer of normalcy returned, but only on the surface. The cabin still pulsed with tension. Every passenger seemed to be bracing for the next eruption. Even the overhead lights felt harsher. Linda pressed the call button again. This time, she did it slowly, deliberately. A performance. Mia approached with visible fatigue. "Yes, ma'am." Linda reclined dramatically, as if posing for a courtroom painting. "I need a meal from first class. I have a medical condition. Low blood sugar, and I need extra legroom, and I need you to speak to your captain about the turbulence." It was unacceptable. "Ma'am, we can only serve first-class meals to first-class passengers," Mia said gently. "And turbulence is not something the captain controls." He did everything correctly. "Oh, you're an expert now." Linda spat. "Is that what they teach you in flight attendant school? How to interrupt people and offer excuses?" Davis sensed Mia was beginning to unravel. Her breaths were shallow, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. Linda saw it too and smiled like a predator scenting weakness. Davis made a choice. He leaned slightly into the aisle and said, quietly but clearly, "Linda, if you calmly explain what you actually need, I'm sure they'll help you." Her head turned, eyes widening in surprise. She had expected resistance. But sympathy? That disarmed her. She straightened, smoothing her jacket. Finally, someone reasonable. Davis didn't smile. He kept his expression neutral, non-threatening. He needed her to believe he was on her side. Not because he wanted peace, but because he understood something crucial. Linda escalated when ignored or confronted, but she exposed herself completely when encouraged. "Tell her everything," Davis murmured. "Don't hold back." Linda inhaled dramatically, ready for her grand monologue. She launched into a loud, rambling list of demands: meal upgrades, temperature adjustments, special privileges, written apologies, threats of lawsuits. Her voice rose in volume, clarity, and intensity. Every word was now being recorded by multiple passengers. Davis watched carefully. Her arrogance had given him the opening he needed. When she paused to breathe, Mia looked at Davis with cautious gratitude. She didn't know what he was doing, but she sensed he was defusing something, even if it wasn't the way she would have chosen. A few seats ahead, another passenger subtly signaled to Davis. All of it was being captured. Every accusation, every insult, every unsafe refusal to comply. It was all documented now. Davis felt the shift. Power was tilting. Linda, blissfully unaware she was burying herself, leaned back with a smug smile. "See? That's how you speak to someone like me." Mia offered a tight nod and stepped away to alert the head attendant, already pulling up safety protocol on her device. Davis could almost see the gears turning. The crew now had grounds to take action, real action. A quiet charge moved through the cabin, like the moment before a storm unleashes itself. Davis exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the coming confrontation settle over him. It wouldn't happen yet, but it was close enough that the air itself seemed to hum with anticipation. Linda reclined victoriously, unaware she had walked straight into her own downfall. And Davis, watching her with measured calm, knew the real turbulence had only just begun. When the turbulence dissipated entirely and the seatbelt sign turned off with a soft chime, the cabin settled into an uneasy silence. It wasn't peace. It was the tight, calculated quiet of people waiting for something inevitable. Linda had grown strangely calm, basking in the illusion that her outburst had successfully intimidated the staff into submission. Her posture was regal, chin lifted. One leg crossed over the other with intentional elegance. She believed she had won. Davis knew better. Mia returned with two other crew members. One he recognized as the head attendant, a tall man with a sharp jaw and an expression carved out of stone. The other attendant stood behind him, face unreadable, but her presence was purposeful, like someone brought along to enforce order if words failed. Linda noticed the trio approaching her and smiled smugly, as if welcoming dignitaries to her personal palace. "Finally," she announced, voice dripping with triumph, "the accountability team has arrived." The head attendant stopped at her row. His voice carried a firmness that cut through the cabin like a blade. "Ma'am, we need to speak with you about your behavior during this flight." Linda leaned back, lacing her fingers together on her lap. "Good. I have many complaints to lodge, starting with your staff's incompetence and hostility." The attendant didn't blink. "We've been reviewing passenger reports and video documentation from multiple angles. Your actions have violated several safety protocols. You repeatedly refused crew instructions. You interfered during turbulence. You endangered passengers." Her smile faltered. "Excuse me." "We've given the information to the captain," he continued. "Upon review, he has authorized a course of action." Linda's eyebrows shot up. "Perfect. I'll speak to him myself." "You won't be speaking to him. You'll be escorted off the aircraft upon landing." The words struck the cabin like a shockwave. A few passengers stiffened. Others widened their eyes with delicious anticipation. Davis felt a quiet ripple of satisfaction surge through him. Linda laughed once, sharply. "No, you can't do that. You're bluffing." The attendant's face remained still, controlled, absolute. "This is not a bluff." Mia stepped forward, holding a tablet that displayed a small gallery of video thumbnails. "We have documented evidence," she said. Multiple passengers recorded your behavior. Everything you've said and done has been corroborated. Linda lunged toward the tablet. Delete that. Right now. The attendant stepped between them. Do not touch her. You can't use these. They're illegal. They're manipulated. Linda's voice rose in pitch, trembling with unraveling confidence. This is slander. I didn't do anything wrong. These people are lying. They're jealous or mentally unstable or... Davis spoke quietly from his seat, not gloating, not mocking, just stating fact. It's all you, Linda. Every second of it. Her head whipped toward him, fury distorting her features. You set me up. You tricked me into talking so they'd film me. No, Davis replied calmly. You talked because you wanted an audience. You pressed the button because you wanted power. You escalated because you thought you were untouchable. Mia looked at Davis, then back at Linda. It was clear now who had truly helped them regain control of the situation. Linda's breathing quickened. You can't do this. I have rights. I'll sue this airline. I'll sue all of you. I'll sue. Ma'am, the head attendant interrupted, his voice firmer now. The captain has already informed ground security. They will meet the aircraft at the gate. You will be removed first. If you do not comply willingly, you will be removed forcibly. Gasps fluttered through the cabin, followed by a satisfying hush of approval. Some passengers exchanged quiet, victorious smiles. Others simply relaxed for the first time since boarding. Linda's voice cracked. You can't treat me like a criminal. No one treated you like one, the attendant said. You made choices that forced this outcome. The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth, words tangled behind shock and disbelief, but no sound emerged. The cabin returned to its pre-descent rhythm. The crew dispersed, leaving Linda frozen in her seat, stunned into silence for the first time since the plane had begun boarding. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with her seatbelt, then gave up, staring at nothing. Davis exhaled slowly, tension melting from his shoulders. Mia approached him, her voice low. Thank you. We couldn't have moved forward without what you did. He shook his head. You were the one doing your job. I just nudged the truth along. Mia smiled faintly, a tired, grateful smile. Still, we owe you one. As she walked away, the cabin lights dimmed for descent. The captain announced their arrival time, speaking with a calmness that felt like a bomb compared to the chaos earlier. Linda, small and shaken in her seat now, whispered something unintelligible. Her voice no longer carried authority. It barely carried at all. The wheels touched down with a smooth bump. The passengers collectively held their breath as the plane slowed. When it finally rolled to a stop at the gate, the air shifted. The tension of the flight rewound through everyone at once. The anticipation of justice drawing the atmosphere taut again. The cabin door opened. 2 airport security officers boarded immediately, moving with efficient certainty. They stopped at Linda's row. She tried to gather her composure. Officers, thank goodness. I need to report. Ma'am, one officer said, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. You need to come with us. No, she whispered. No, this isn't happening. Passengers watched with unfiltered fascination. Some recorded discreetly. Others simply savored the moment silently. Linda argued, pleaded, panicked. But the officer's grip was firm, not aggressive, just immovable. They guided her from her seat and down the aisle. Her voice rose again in a chorus of furious denials and wild accusations. But no one listened. No one believed. Her words had exhausted themselves long ago. As she reached the exit, a ripple of applause spread through the cabin. Not loud, not mocking, just cathartic. A release of collective tension. Justice delivered at cruising altitude. Davis didn't clap. He simply watched, steady and calm, the way one observes a storm finally passing after too long. After Linda was gone, Mia returned to the aisle, cheeks slightly flushed, but eyes brightened by relief. Ladies and gentlemen, she said through a soft chuckle, we appreciate your cooperation, and for not pressing the call button repeatedly. Laughter broke out, warm and unburdened. Davis leaned back into his seat as the plane began to empty. He felt strangely light, as though the confrontation had peeled away a layer of tension he'd carried for reasons he hadn't recognized until now. When he stood to leave, Mia caught his arm gently. "If you ever consider a career change," she said, "we could use someone with your diplomatic instincts." He smiled. "I'll keep that in mind." He stepped off the plane into the terminal's open air, the chaos left behind, but the memory vivid and strangely satisfying. As he walked away, he couldn't help glancing back once at the plane, imagining the small, tormented call button above Linda's seat, the tiny piece of plastic that had survived more abuse in 2 hours than most endured in years. "Rest easy, little button," he thought. "Your war is over." And with that, Davis disappeared into the terminal's steady flow, unaware that the recordings of Linda's meltdown were already making their way to the internet, ready to ignite a storm far larger than the one she had unleashed on Flight 287.